Hello everyone, and welcome to another How Lucy's It review. Today I'm excited to review Mountains out of Molehills. This is a game for 2 to 4 players. Takes around 45 minutes to an hour to play. And published by the Up Games. This game is really enjoyable. It has some card drafting and area movement, area control aspects to it. Really fun artwork, really well produced game. So let's go ahead and show you what comes in Mountains out of Molehills. Number one, obviously the name is awesome, as it's a play on, don't make mountains out of molehills type of scenario. In this case, you really are trying to make mountains as much as you can, at least claim them as your own. But you have to be careful, because if you make them too tall, they will topple. But you can either have them topple to your advantage or your opponent's disadvantage, and however that goes. So the first thing you will probably notice as you see this game played, or see the picture on the back of the box, is that it has a really cool playing area. So the game has a really great insert here and has these nice plastic pieces here that are molded to look kind of like stone or rock, and they just simply, they have a channel here, and on one of the ends a little flat section to hold the board on top. So you have the board underneath. Both of these boards are double-sided, so this is for a 2-player game, so it tightens up the space a bit more. In a 3-player game, you're only going to be utilizing this grassy area to keep it a little more condensed. And then with 4 players, you're going to utilize the entire board on this side. For game setup, really simple. You're gonna stick the board in here. Oop, wrong board. I already have that board in there. You slide these plastic pieces in the 4 corners. You have the other board resting in here, and then you're gonna go ahead and place this on top as well. The board also has some letters and numbers that you want to make sure that it matches that way, so that if there's any question, usually you can kind of tell, where the mole is, because what happens, you're going to be placing these moles down on this lower level, and depending on the movement, you're going to be placing pieces here on the top portion of the board. So, sometimes you'll need to verify, oh, this was actually in C, not D. It goes there. So, but yeah, as far as the board and the elements, the components, quality, and everything is really fantastic. You'll notice they just pulled out all the stops on this. So because you have this really cool 2-layer board, they also incorporated on the inside of this the bottom box here some really fun little artwork. So you have the little dinosaur bones, you have a little treasure chest with some other little maybe baby moles in there. So it's just really fun artwork included in this game on both the boards. You looking at your pieces here, really fun artwork for these. There's different kinds of moles. This is actually like a naked mole rat, I believe is what it was. And so you have just these nice kind of clear transparent type pieces. You'll pull off some plastic initially and then slip them into the base here. They fit really snug and nice. I did have some go in easier than others, but I was able to get them all in there. And very cool. The only thing I do wish on these pieces, so I think it works really well because you actually need direction in this game. So, you know, you're looking at the nose of the mole is pointing in the direction that it would move forward. And so for this case specifically, you know, instead of like pawns or something like that, you know, something that's very distinctly two-dimensional here of this way actually really helps. The only thing I would say is that as far as the pieces on the board, when you have them and they kind of come up close to each other, there's quite a bit of overlap. And so when you're turning pieces, if they're close together, it's just a little inconvenient as far as some of that goes. But that being said, I really do like these pieces a lot. Just as they get close together, they kind of bang into each other, and maybe I wish they were maybe a little smaller. I don't know. Or the board was slightly bigger. But anyway, that's the only downside that I would see as far as the functionality of the pieces themselves. Otherwise, they look great, and the function of direction with this type of piece, I think, works really well. So the other components in this game, you're going to get these kind of plastic pieces that represent dirt for the different hills that will be created here on top. You're going to be placing the molehills on this top board right here, and the pieces slide in together. It's actually very satisfying to put these together and pull them apart. It's not a really hard like snap, which I think is really actually good in this case. It almost gives the motion of like sand kind of moving past each other, I think. So I actually really like these pieces. I know my kids have utilized, you know, some not, you know, straight edge, you know, just blocks for math and different things. So it's something very similar to that, but these have some nice texture to them. You can see that kind of texture to the pieces there. So those are really great. There's a die included in here. It's a pretty simple die, but works really well. Looks like it's screen printed on. So that works well. The iconography and everything is very simple. This has 2 left and 2 right turns and 2, if I can find one, U-turns on those. There's a few cardboard tokens in the game as well, and they are pre-punched out and in a little baggie, and they're really great. It's very clean. You can see these are player order markers. And then, of course, there are 120 of these movement cards. And very, again, clear on what all of the cards do. Simple iconography here of what they are. And I really appreciate the amount of cards in this case, because if you're playing with a 4-player game, you shuffle this deck once, which is a lot. Usually I kind of split it up. Me and my wife each shuffle a deck, take half, swap, shuffle some more. But when you're done, you're done. There's no more shuffling for the remainder of the game. So once those are all shuffled, you're going to utilize all of the cards in a 4-player game. Well, utilize, I mean, deal them out each round. You're not going to utilize all the cards each round, each game, but you get to the point and you go through this entire deck. You don't have to reshuffle anything. And so as far as the flow of the game, something kind of small, but to me just really helps the feel of the game. I really appreciated that as well. The game has a great rule book here. Even in the beginning here, with Meet the Competitors, the wordplay continues, and I really appreciated it as well. We have Loma, Sandy, Clay, and Pete. So play on some different kind of soils and things like that. But the instructions are really clear. It's got great pictures and examples here, little tips. And so I was really pleased with the rule set as well. The back even of this has a very helpful reminder of what movement cards are available and what they do. So really great. And they also included a score tracking pad. So you'll get a bunch of pads in here, which are double-sided. And it's really great. You'll play over 6 rounds. And it has some important reminder information on this as well. So we usually have this here just on the table. With our molehills being built on top, there's max height. So the first round you can only go 2 before it topples. And then it will go to 3 for a couple of rounds, 4 for a couple of rounds. And then finally you can go 5 high on these hills here. So there's our 2 versus our 5 to give you an idea of the height difference that you'll see as you play the game. But basically there's 2 different phases of this game, and the first phase you're going to deal out 5 of these movement cards onto the table per player. And then you're going to take turns drafting them according to player turn order, which is kept track of by these markers here. And so going first, you have the benefit of choosing these cards here first, the movement cards. And you take one and then you just continue in turn order. Everyone takes one, and then you go around again until everyone has 4 of the movement cards. So there will be some left over that will be discarded. And then you go into the other phase, which is majority of the game here. So, but there's a lot of strategy to which cards, because these will be different programming cards of movement. You're going to have to select, once you've chosen your 4 cards, you will then need to position them such that you are going to do this first, and then everyone will do their first action, and then everyone will do their second action. And so you have to program it beforehand. You're not going to take turns. So you have to figure out what you want to do beforehand, and then place that. You can place a little marker saying, hey, I'm ready. And once everyone's ready, then you can go into the other phase of the game. Now, what that is it's pretty simple. At this point, you're going to flip over the card and do whatever the action is on that card. So the rock is an interesting element included with 1 token here in the die. Whenever one of these are played, you can place the rock down here below in an open space and roll the die. And that's going to signify whoever hits that rock basically is going to use a movement point and change direction. Usually, if you have movement and you have extra movement, but you come to an edge, or, for example, you hit a mole, you lose the rest of those movement points and you've stopped. The rock is interesting because it can kind of block people from going certain directions. If you want to, make sure they don't steal one of your molehills, may want to do that. You may want to put it in front of yourself so that you can use some movement points from that rock to turn a different direction. Then simply a lot of them are going to be movement cards. So if I move 2 forward, that's what these ones are. There are also turn left and move forward 1. You can choose which order you want to do that. You can move forward 1, then turn left, or go ahead and turn left and then move forward. So we have those cards in here as well. There's some others that allow you to topple over towers prematurely or just simply turn. But the general gist is you're going to be moving down here. And whenever you move into a new square, you're going to plop. If I did a 2 movement, 1, 2, I'm going to plop down my colored dirt pieces on the board right above me. And at the end of each round, the scoring is dictated by whoever is on the bottom of these towers. So you're going to get 1 point, at least 1 point, if yours is on the bottom. That's a given. You're going to get 1 point. Now, with this one here, it's too tall, not TOO, but TWO. It's number 2 tall. So you're going to actually get 2 points for this tower. So each mound or molehill here is worth the height that it is currently at that end of that round. So I can get 2 points for this one. This will be worth 1. I may have, spread out some other pieces here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points for yellow at the end of that round. Now, of course, could be that some other color came in here, and maybe gray came in here and claimed that one. So gray would get 2 points. Yellow would not get any points for that molehill because they're not on the bottom. So you want to claim as many molehills as you can, as those gives you points. At the end of that scoring round, you're also going to look and see whoever has the most dirt pieces here on top of all of the different pieces actually gets to choose player order first. So, going first, you get first pickment of cards and first movement, which can be very beneficial. It can also be very beneficial to go last, as you can have the very last piece of movement that can then maybe come in and claim at that last movement, and then no one has any other actions after you to claim some of those molehills for the points. Now, I'd mentioned some toppling over mechanics to this. So let's say gray came in here, and this is during the first round, and he came in and moved, and he put 2 pieces right here. Well, now these are both beyond in the first round. Remember, we can only have a max height of 2. So these are going to topple. Whenever the towers topple, the individual that's creating that is going to get to choose how that happens. So the piece on the bottom is always going to remain there. And you can choose, if there's multiple, that person can choose which one will happen first. So gray's caused these to topple. He could have them topple this way and have the brown. So that brown piece would go, and then that one. And this one, he could do similarly, spread them out that way. That'd be giving their opponent some other points. Now, he does want some points, so he could cause this one actually to topple over the edge, which is also a possibility. If that happens, these pieces just simply go back to their owners. Then he could have this one topple backwards onto this one, making sure that they get another point there. That would then cause a chain reaction, because now this one has 3, and he could have it topple off and say, just let's get rid of those pieces. So that's kind of how the toppling mechanic works. You want to have the option to be able to do that, because it can dramatically change the layout of the board up here. And whoever has the most points after 6 rounds is going to be the winner of Mountains out of Molehills. So very, very impressed with this game. Just the components of everything work really, really well. I played this with my children as well, as it makes a great family game. The mechanics work really well, and it's fun for, that 2-layer board is always really, really intriguing to kids and adults too. And it's just really, really well produced and a fun strategic game as far as planning things out. Now, some, depending on your child and their ability to kind of think through logically and strategically, there may be some frustration in this game, because sometimes that rock is not happy. It's not a happy rock. And so putting that in front of someone, and if it's rolled a certain way, and let's say it causes them to turn right, and like their very first movement of that round moves into this rock, and they weren't planning on that, and now they're facing this way, they don't have any turn cards, they can only move forward. Well, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to be adding any any dirt pieces above, because you only do that when you move into new squares. And so basically their whole turn, I mean, they're playing that round is likely nothing. And that can be really, really frustrating. So there is that element to the game that may be frustrating for some folks who don't like the take that, or elements to games. But other than that, it's really, really fun, and it's fun moving around, and you're making these get higher and higher, and trying to ensure that as the rounds go, you're able to go up higher and higher. And so you have some, yellow had it, and then brown had it, and now yellow has it back. And so you'll have some tug of war over some of these larger towers. But then if you actually make it too big, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the last round, this is looking pretty good for yellow. But if someone can come topple that, they are just going to make that, which was worth 5 points, worth 1 point. And they could potentially boost. Gray could have it fall this way, and now gray just got 3 more points because they were added there. So it's some really cool elements of the game strategically. There's obviously some strategy in what cards to choose, and powerful cards that allow you to move a lot of spaces, like 2 or 3 ahead. That's 3 pieces that you're adding to the board. That's really important. But having the flexibility to be able to turn a certain direction can be really, really important as well. If you're just taking, a lot of these high movement cards, you might end up in this sort of situation where they've actually become useless. So that is Mountain Out of Molehills, a fantastic family style game. Really great, really fun, and good quality production. And that is how Lou sees it.